So good morning. Today's Dharma Talk is titled To Vaccine or Not to Vaccine. Let's begin with the words of Shinran Shonin. With the words of Honen Shonin. Persons of the Pure Land tradition attain birth in the Pure Land by becoming their foolish selves. Namo Amida Butsu. So this is a quote, this is Shinran Shonin quoting his great teacher, Honen, saying persons of the Pure Land tradition attain birth in the Pure Land by becoming their foolish selves. Namo Amida Butsu. So to vaccine or not to vaccine, that is the question. Well, actually, from a Buddhist perspective, there is no question. Based on the Buddhist principle of ahimsa, or no harm, non-harm, protecting yourself and protecting others from infection by receiving a COVID-19 vaccination is intuitively obvious. The Dharma of the Buddha's teachings consistently emphasizes causality, empiricism, and logical rationalism, the same principles upon which science is built. As Shin Buddhists on the path of Nembutsu, we strive daily to practice other-centric compassion by washing our hands, wearing masks, keeping distance, staying home as much as practical, avoiding crowds. And at the same time, we try to reach out to others, to help others, to smile with aloha, and to say mahalo. For Shin Buddhists, the faith of Shinjin, the heart of great compassion received gratefully from Amida, is the source of strength and serenity as life unfolds naturally, whether it's a novel coronavirus, political and societal change, or simply when things don't quite work out as we expected. Culturally, as Americans, however, we are trained to think and live life as if it's about me. It's always about my ego self. So M-E, it's always about me. It's always about my ego. And egocentric selfishness compels thinking like, I won't get infected. Even if I get infected, I won't die. I'll recover quickly. Other people getting infected and dying has nothing to do with me. Because I'm the exception. I'm entitled. I'm special. I deserve all the good stuff in the world and none of the bad. And yet, in the back of our rational minds, we know this assertion will not hold true, and that this disconnect creates anxiety, fear, anger, rage, and hatred, and this manifests in irrational behavior. As the Buddha said, we know better, but we do stupid things anyway. This is the human condition. Okay, actually, the Buddha didn't say that. Shakyamuni Buddha identified this clinging attachment to my ego, to me, to the ego self, the primacy of the ego self, as the cause of suffering, discontent, dissatisfaction in human life. The Buddha taught that elimination of the attachment to me, to my ego, or the elimination of my ego, the elimination of ego, is the end of suffering. And this state of being is called nirvana, the extinguishing of self-centered craving, desire, and attachment. Liberation from our bondage of selfishness. The challenge, of course, is that the Buddha taught the Eightfold Noble Path, which requires renunciation of this world, becoming a monk, shaving your head, giving up everything, and living according to very strict discipline by following the Eightfold Path. So not everybody is ready, able, or willing to become a monk. Thus, Shakyamuni Buddha revealed in the larger sutra of the Tathagata of immeasurable life, the Dharma of the path of Nembutsu, which was created by Amida Buddha precisely for egocentric, self-centered, hopelessly ordinary human beings who are dominated by their blind passions, exemplified by anger, greed, and ignorance. People like me. So hearing the calling voice of Amida and saying Namo Amida Butsu with absolute sincerity and awakening the aspiration for birth in the Pure Land, becoming Buddha, not for yourself, but for others, we gratefully receive Shinjin, the great love and great compassion of Amida, the heart of compassion, the mind of non-discrimination of Amida. And it is gratefully receiving Shinjin that assures our birth in the Pure Land, and thus becoming Buddha. Now, the argument against COVID-19 vaccines is primarily driven by fear. Fear that the vaccine may not work, or fear that the vaccine will have serious side effects, that some that we know about and others that we just can't see yet. Fear that the government, scientists, public health agencies, and or the media are all lying about the vaccine. It's a conspiracy. Fear that the best days of our lives are behind us. So fear is an emotional, psychological, and physiological reaction to external stimulus that the human brain and the ego self, me, my ego, interpret as an existential threat, a threat to my existence. Fear is not rational. Thus, fear can only be overcome by compassion. It is human nature for me to insist that I alone am right. It is human nature for me to insist on persuading someone else they are wrong. It is human nature to resent others who insist upon telling me what to do. So when both sides of conflict insist that they alone are right and the other is wrong, obviously, conflict, confrontation, anger, all emerges and arises from these causes and conditions. So in the end, each individual must make up their own mind about whether or not to receive the vaccine when it is available to them. Each individual must weigh the facts, the body of evidence, authoritative opinion, and make a judgment for themselves. At the same time, personal exceptionalism or individual liberty, this is the American way. And taken to an extreme, why we have such anger, division, and incivility, hate, and rage in our nation today. As we have observed in the past few months, the absolute reality is that personal exceptionalism can be extremely harmful during a public health emergency. While individuals have the inalienable right to express their opinions and to make individual choice, the right of individual liberty must not and cannot be allowed to infringe upon the equally important rights of others to their life, to their liberty, to their pursuit of happiness. As Buddhists, we must seek the middle path, seek to understand the other person's position, and work together to find balance between two extremes. In my opinion, the science behind the vaccines is valid, and I plan to get the vaccine as soon as possible when it's available for people in my particular situation. Now, clearly, there's a risk I might be one of the 5% for whom the vaccine doesn't work. There is a risk of known and unforeseen side effects. And there's the risk, actually it's not a risk, there's the discomfort of post-injection flu-like symptoms. And you have to get 2 vaccinations for this to work. But as Buddhists, we know that risk is in every aspect of human life. As Buddhists, we know that the truth of impermanence applies to everyone without exception. And as Shin Buddhists, we know that all that we can do is to try the best we can in this unrepeatable life and gratefully leave our birth in the Pure Land and becoming Buddha up to Amida. So the faith of Shinjin, the absolute assurance of birth in the Pure Land and becoming Buddha, gives Shin Buddhists the strength and serenity to adapt, to improvise, to overcome the challenges and obstacles created by COVID-19 public health emergency. Now, if you ask the ex-copywriter in me to develop a t-shirt slogan for these times, it might be something like this. Get the vaccine or wear a mask until you die. Which probably explains why I'm an ex-copywriter and not actually working as a copywriter now. Okay, I thought it was funny. So as we approach the end of the year 2020, please stay on guard, stay healthy, and have fun, embraced by Amida's great love and illuminated by the unhindered light of wisdom. Thank you for listening this morning. Namanda, Vitsnamanda, Vitsnamanda. Namo. The essence of Shin Buddhism is the faith of Shinjin, Amida's great love and great compassion transforming our all too human hearts and minds so that we are empowered to respond in gratitude to life as it unfolds naturally. Just say mahalo. Mahalo for listening this morning, and may your day be filled with aloha. Namanda, Vitsnamanda.